Getting away from that mindset of like, I gotta be here because I gotta make money, or I have to be here because somebody said that made me successful, or I have to be here to honor my parents. Those things stretch from like miles and miles further away from who you are.
Exactly.
That it will take you forever to just try a new drink at a coffee shop.
I've been hurting, but with purpose. I've been working on myself. I've been looking in the mirror like queen, ain't nobody else. Better than you, hotter than you, better than you, hotter than you, better than you, hotter than you. Girl, you top two, and you not two.
Ken folk, what is good? It's your girl Ken, and I welcome you again to another episode of the Keys and Seeds podcast. This is episode 30, and I'm super excited because it's episode 30. I have been in a place of learning how to truly celebrate every milestone, especially as it relates to this podcast, because I don't know numbers off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure there's a stat somewhere out there that there's a percentage of people who start podcasts and then they don't stick with it. And unless you're someone in this space of podcasting or producing any type of content, I don't think a lot of people realize just how much goes into showing up for anything consistently. But yeah, as I've said before, it's not just me talking in front of a microphone. It's me thinking about what I want to share, being intentional about the content that I'm sharing. It's me setting up. It's me doing the post-production, all of the things. It's a one-person team over here. It's just me and God. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful that God gave me the voice and the platform that I have. And yeah, so cheers to episode 30. Because it's a milestone episode, I wanted to do something different. And by different, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't want to do a solo episode or interview someone else, but I think it would be really cool if someone interviewed me. And that thought really became like driven home with me recently launching a new website. So if you're tuning into this, if you've been under a rock, please go check out my new website. It houses and showcases all of who I am, the ways in which I use my voice and my platform. And I really want to start cultivating more of a community and just putting myself more out there, because there's people who might know me for one thing, but I'm sure there's a lot of things about me that people do not know, you know? So enough of me talking. We'll get more into, the website and the details and just where I'm at here soon, because that is the purpose of this episode. But the person who I chose to interview me for this episode is someone who has actually played a very key role in my personal growth. Of course, this podcast is me sharing with you all my growth spiritually, emotionally, and just all of the things. I really bring you guys into my personal life and the ways in which I'm growing. And this individual already knows exactly how I feel about them and how grateful I am for them. But to share that with you guys, and she also too will give you guys a proper introduction of who she is. But sitting next to me on this couch is my sis Fee, styled by Fee on the gram. She is someone who I reached out to when I knew that I needed to be styled for Treese, right? And from there, our relationship just blossomed into her being more than just my stylist, but my sister. Me being on this journey of finding my personal style has helped me really become more confident, and that translates into just a lot of areas in my life, right? And so since then, we've cultivated a relationship of her styling me for a number of different events, including the personal brand shoot that I just did to promote the new website. And Yeah, this is my sis. This is my stylist. She's very talented. She's very genuine, humble, and my intentions with this episode is to just share more with you guys as far as what that journey has looked like thus far, and just bring you guys more into where I am now and the vision that I have, because we're very much so on the same page when it comes to a lot of things. And so I just want to open up the conversation to allow her to pick my brain. So yeah, because I can sit here and talk about myself, right? But I'm very curious to know what questions she's going to ask me. I actually have no idea what she's going to ask me, but I'm ready and I'm excited. And yeah, so welcome, Fee, to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here, to be able to share space with you. When you had asked me to do the question and being the interviewer, it's without a doubt that I could do something like this for someone who has so much to share and to witness at the same time. For me, it's out of curiosity for me to even have the understanding to see where you're at as a reflection. So this is a good opportunity to have a reflection. And
y'all, she asked me a lot of great questions, like off camera, and I just be like, I never thought about that. So I'm like, yeah, this person is definitely qualified for this role of interviewing me.
I love stories, and I love people. I love that everybody has a particular moment and purpose and time, and I think it's so important to hold value on that. So I do appreciate you for choosing me to be the one. But let's just start. Let's get into it. So I got to meet you back in Sharice. What is this, 2023, right?
Was it?
Because
this year is 2024. Yes, last
2023, right?
Yes, last year.
And styling, which is crazy to say, like, styling has been one of the hardest things that I've ever done. But when given the right opportunity and the right people, it's such a ease and such a comfort to find somebody. And you were one of the people that actually exercised that moment with me. Yeah. And one of the first things I like to start with, especially people that I don't know at all, I love to build rapport. And one of the things that I asked you to do was to make a mood board.
Yes.
Do you want to break down a little bit about what that mood board was for you and that experience to kind of translate who you were to somebody you didn't know, like me?
Right. So y'all, when she asked me to do this mood board, I'm over here scratching my head like, so what do you mean by mood board? Like, what goes on it? And you're like, think about textures and colors and what inspires you. Like, who are you as a person in pictures? And so me already being a Pinterest girly, I'm like, okay, I'm adding, pictures of cats and, things that remind me of the earth, right? Like, I feel like I have a very earthy, grounded, type of personality. And so outside of those things, though, like, I really had to think about it. And I definitely appreciate that exercise because, when you reach out to someone for styling, I had never done that before. So I wasn't aware of what to expect, but I could tell that she was very intentional about working with me in a way where it wasn't just, oh, okay, I'm just gonna go shopping and buy some clothes that I feel like you would look good in, So I don't remember what all I put on the mood board, but I know I definitely truly put some thought into it, and I appreciate you putting me through that exercise because at the time I'm like, what does this really have to do with clothes? I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But I did start to see how things unfolded from that exercise. Like, oh, okay, I put this on my mood board. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's, for me, I absolutely need it. A lot of times people question kind of like what is the role and what is happening, and I totally understand that. But I think wardrobe is a really in-depth process when you're really trying to hone into style.
For sure.
We're not talking about being fashionable because that could happen with anybody with a lot of money. But I'm talking about people who are really curious about understanding who they are inside of representing who they are on a day-to-day basis, especially when you use yourself as a public figure in your business. And a lot of times people want to disconnect from that space and play like a mask. But when you're an authentic person, that's going to be troubled, and you're going to have a conflict of interest almost 90% of the time.
Right.
So my goal in that is to always honor people for who they are and where they come from and who they ultimately want to be. And I believe that's a forever exercise. So like something like a mood board that you do now will change in the next year, you know what I mean, easily. So with that process, you know, me and you have been able to gain so much rapport between now and back then, and I'm just so thankful to kind of see you implement all these practices, because when you first came to me, it was like, I want to be different. Like, it wasn't like, this is who I've always been. It's like essence of certain parts of it, but you're like, I'm trying to make a very inserted change amongst the massive amount of people that already know me. How does that feel to kind of do a new interpretation, new rendition of who you are when people already see you in such a way? Like, what does that do to you personally, and how does that reconnect with others that already know you?
Yeah. It feels very freeing. I would definitely say that. Because this is a podcast that's dedicated to my personal growth. I don't think I've ever like explicitly said it, but I know like a reoccurring theme for me in my life has been feeling frustrated for not being seen or understood for who I know I truly am. Even though if I was to explain who I truly am, a lot of times I don't even have the words. It's like, do I know who I am? But to answer your question, it feels freeing because I've always felt like people have placed me into a box. And I don't know, like, although I'm a creative, I also too struggle with that feeling of wanting to hide because I don't want to be perceived. And I know I know that I don't want to be perceived because I always know that 9 times out of 10, people's perception of me is wrong. But I know that I can't do anything about that. But I also came to a place of realizing that I can only control what I can control. But within that, how can I truly begin to be more intentional about changing people's perception of me? Because if I'm only showing or presenting, you know, one version or one side of myself, I'm not allowing people the opportunity to be like, oh, okay, she's that too, you know? So it's definitely freeing. It's definitely been fun. Just the way in which you've been helping me shape my perspective in a new way as it pertains to just fashion. That's an art form as well, you know? So I often refer to myself as an artist, as a creative, and I've always recognized art, you know, in different mediums outside of music because I make music, right? But I don't think I've ever consciously thought about art showing up within the space of fashion. But it's weird because I remember when I was younger, I used to thrift, and like I've always had like that side within me, but it's never something that I like consciously thought about. Like I would cut up clothes and I thought I wanted to be a fashion designer, but I don't know, I just never consciously thought about clothing as art in the way in which you've been helping me put language to that. So yeah,
I love that because I love that it's freeing. Yeah. So I think oftentimes as artists, that's like one of the steps that you take towards like, you know, autonomy and really honing into yourself as a creative, because this world doesn't make it easy for us to be able to be understood. And a lot of that is because of the restrictions that we have to be creative people and how they've made that socially accepted for us. So you just like standing on it and just saying, no, this is who I want to be. This is the direction I want to go. That is a part of releasing. For sure. You know what I mean? All of these kind of substructures and constructs and traumas that are related to our day-to-day living. Exactly. There's no way you can be a creative with that type of mindset. I'll just let everybody know right now, like it's just not going to work out for you. Yeah. And you having the opportunity to really release it and offer yourself some relief and some renewing at the same time is giving you a whole new perspective. And I have the willing honor to be able to see you grow inside of that as we do these, you know, it's really interesting because it's not, I'm not demanding you to be this new person, right?
Yeah.
You're really willing to accept the space of growth that you want to be in, and putting a lot of intentional work towards that. I know that you would call me randomly asking about these different ideas that you had personally with fashion. Nothing that I presented to you, and you were implementing and exercising your own practices, which I encourage everybody to do. Because, you know, my goal is knowing that you're always going to evolve, and that I'm always going to be here. But if I'm not here, what are you going to do to be able to accept yourself in your moment? Because things are kind of like a yes and no decision when it's in the moment. And you offering yourself that urgency and that work ethic behind it, it makes my creativity so much more eased. Because I know that you're taking the things I say with confidence and holding it into your new interpretation. And I think you've been adapting that with almost everything, though, not just like fashion, but just everything you want to touch now. And I think that's amazing, because like when you had reached out to me, it was for music, right? But you was like, I'm really wanting to be serious about this podcast. Like that's really what I'm trying to focus on right now.
For sure.
And I think that because of that, it's been interpreting in all other ways of how you wanting to be perceived, and how you're trying to unfold yourself in your music and creative career, how you're an entrepreneur and you have all these other public identities that you're trying to identify with. What are some things that you look forward to now that you have this new rendition, this new outlook that you have set upon you? What are some things that you are transpiring in the future?
I'm looking forward to, and I think this is about to sound so simple, but connecting with people in new ways. Because going back to what I said earlier, more often than not, when people see me out, it's about music. The first thing they're asking me about. But even with me having this podcast now, since I've started it, it's still been, you got some new music coming? But recently it's been, I see what you're doing with the podcast. I wasn't expecting that. That's different. I didn't even know that that's how you thought about, or people have been acknowledging that the podcast has allowed them to see a different side of me, right? And so it's like, even if they don't see me consistent or as consistent as I may have been in the past with the music, they see that I've been consistent in another area or space of my life. And people appreciate that. People respect that. And so that makes me feel good. But going back to my actual answer, like, I'm just looking forward to reconnecting with people in new ways, like just opening up the conversation for it to be more than just me talking about my music, especially when I know that there's other things that I'm working on. And something that I've always loved about you personally is the fact that when I first met you, I just knew you as Fee the stylist. But I'm over here meeting other people, and they're like, oh, Fee helped me do da-da-da-da-da, and Fee be doing da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, really? She be doing that? Like, but it wasn't until I really got to know you that I realized, like, you weren't just a stylist, right? And so with that, I'm like, I really admire and respect that, because I'm not just a music artist. I'm not just a podcast host. And so that was also to my intentions with this website launch. But no,
I think that's great. I think I always encourage creative people, and creative people, like when I say creative people, I really like to stretch that conversation a lot, because there is more than one way to interpret that, and people should be given the opportunity to try that with themselves. If you don't think you're creative, please try it. Just try to think to do something.
I want to add to that point without cutting you off. When you're truly a creative, you can create in any medium. And there's something that Frank Ocean has said like years ago that has always stuck with me. He said something to the effect of, if you're an artist or if you're a writer, you can write in any medium. And from there, I was just writing poems at the time. But I'm like, my poems can be raps. I can also write a screenplay. So it was just different things like that that was just making me think like, okay, if I'm truly an artist, if I'm truly a creative, how can I expand myself in ways in which I'm creating in ways that I wouldn't necessarily create in, on a typical, type of basis. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Because I say do everything.
For sure.
I say do everything. And I think that is what makes you, first of all, you don't get all the time in the world to really reflect on. Some people may never understand that their capacities for things aren't limited.
Yeah.
And you really can stretch yourself in so many ways, but for the pure joy and pleasure of life, things don't have to always feel like a constant survival space.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that you've talked about often inside of your creative journey, and wanting to be more than what you know to be within you. And I think that is such courage, because like getting away from that mindset of like, I gotta be here because I gotta make money, or I have to be here because somebody said that made me successful, or I have to be here to honor my parents. Those things stretch from like miles and miles further away from who you are.
Exactly.
That it will take you forever to just try a new drink at a coffee shop. You know what I mean? It's just like your indifference of who you want to be is so necessary to the evolving of who you are.
Yes.
And I am so happy.
And I want to add to that too, because y'all, literally the ways in which she has, so like the ways in which you've helped me with my style, right? Like I remember like when we first started going out to shop, I literally remember you picking up stuff and you're like, how you feel about this? And I'm like, truthfully, this is not something that I would go for on my own if I'm shopping for myself on a typical, day. But because it was her and I be seeing her and she be putting it on, I'm like, it's feet. I'm finna try it. And I'm putting it on and I'm like, I like how this feels. So like that slowly but surely opened me up to that applying to just everything in my life. Like, when you go to a restaurant, like you have your go-to, like I know this finna be good, but I'm like, let me try this, because then from there you might have another go-to favorite, and you probably would have never known that you were gonna like that thing until you opened yourself up to that. So literally just in different ways you've opened up my mind to just being open to just more things in general. So yeah.
I think that what you're doing is really showing all the hard work that you've been putting into seeing yourself and really and challenging yourself on a daily. Like, we talk at least on a weekly basis about kind of the things that you're constructing and the things that you're looking forward to. So let's talk about what you have been working on.
Yes.
On this new launch of your website. Like, what is it? Like, what made you want to do the website? Like, why was that so important for you?
Right. So to make a long story short, even though I always say that ends up being a long story, I just know I'm at a place in my life where I'm realizing that I have to start creating my own opportunities instead of constantly seeking out opportunities in other people. And I had this idea of building a new website. Not only that, but as an artist, shout out to Stowe. I'm going to tag him when I promote this podcast. He is someone who I know who is constantly telling artists, you need a website, you need a website. He is the you need a website guy. And he's like, you artists need a website because whenever there's these days when Instagram is down and, this, that, and the fourth, like what happens if, you have your fan base and you have, the people who are connected with you on social media, but social media is gone, right? And so he really have just been drilling in my mind to really have my own home on the internet so I can drive people there instead of these apps that are making money off of us, right?
Right.
And so I knew from there I already wanted to have a website. But going back to me wanting to create my own opportunities, I'm like, I guess the first step is building a website, and not just a website for my music, but just showcasing all of who I am and what I have to offer. And then too, like, the link in my bio, like, I already have multi-links that's linking to different places, and that's a third party too that I'm using. So I'm like, I just need a website. And so me wanting to build this website came from a place of me truly wanting to just establish myself more professionally, establish myself more so like as a creative in a way where I'm telling people like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, but I want y'all to take me serious, right? So yeah, again, there's people who know me for different things, but there's also a lot of things that I do and I want to get into that I haven't quite yet like put myself out there with. And so the website was also the first step for that too.
I don't have a website, so it inspires me.
She's someone who needs one too, because she does so much.
That needs a website, but I do think it is so important. And I think, you know, when you refine yourself and know what direction you're going to, that is so important.
Exactly.
To host a space that puts all the contents together.
I would say the refinement has driven me to that point too. Like, absolutely. Okay, I'm at a place now where I'm more sure of who I am. Let me be intentional about truly rebranding and reintroducing myself, because I've done rebrands in the past, of course, but yeah, you know, and I feel like life is just going to continue to be an evolution and, you know, rebrands. But I think having a solidified, you know, website is the first step to have people be able to connect with you. Because even when you're out and people are like, oh, let me get your Instagram, like, no, let me get your email so you can sign up for this email list. You know what I mean? Like,
sign up for the email list.
Even when I post something on Instagram, like, y'all all know that we be shadow banned. Y'all all know that there's people who are just monitoring spirits and are just engaging with your content but aren't truly supporting you. So it's like, how can we sift through this and actually figure out who's here to support the movement? Because this is a movement, and I also know that I truly want to cultivate a community, like I said. And so I'm like, well, I can't really have a community if people don't really know who I am or, you know, what it is I do, and I'm not being intentional about giving that information and communicating that. So yeah, absolutely.
So what is it that you do? What are these services that you're trying to venture into, and what is the need for that for you? Like, why is it taking you in a new direction? Why are we not just sticking to the podcast or sticking to one thing? What is it for you to elaborate on your desires?
So again, a lot of you guys know that I make music. That's how a lot of you guys have tuned into this podcast, but the podcast itself is also growing, and so there's people who don't even know that I do music. And so I make music, I have this podcast, of course, but I also want to get into creative project management, something that I really enjoy doing because of the gift that God has given me, right? Like, it's thrusted me into this place of being on a microphone and being in front of a camera. But I truly enjoy being the person behind the scenes, helping things come together and run smoothly, right? I've always been someone who didn't necessarily desire to work for other people, like in a corporate setting, doing something that I'm not passionate about. But I also, too, am not too fond of being an entrepreneur either, because you have to truly, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you just have to really be, like, dedicated and responsible and all of the things. And, like, I personally don't want to be, like, the main person in charge when it comes to business matters. But if I can be a helping hand and assist, like, that's something that I genuinely enjoy doing. And so knowing that there's people who come to me all the time and they're pricking my brain about being an artist, right? Like, there's so many people who ask me, like, oh, how do you do this? Or how did you go about this? And there's people who ask me for my help and assistance all of the time. And then there's certain conversations that I have with people, and I'm realizing what their pain points are. And I'm like, I can help you with that. You know, like, just the logistics of how systems are ran. Because I'm doing this podcast by myself, I manage myself as an artist. Just anything creative I enjoy doing, but I also know that I love helping people, and I enjoy being the person that's figuring out the logistics of things. Like, I want to manage a project from the start to the end. Like, while I was still in college, I put on my first show, headlined my own show. I'm the one calling and booking the venue and putting this together and making sure this is good and this is good. Like, although it was stressful because I then had to get on stage and perform, that was something that I genuinely enjoyed doing. Like, if I could be the person at the door taking the tickets and, you know what I mean, like, just making sure logistically everything is good, I would do that. But it's like I also do the things that I do too creatively. So yeah, so creative project management. Of course, you guys can book me to perform. I know that I really want to get more into public speaking. Mm-hmm. It's nerve-wracking, but I've been booked before to speak, and I know, like, deep down within me, like, what it is I know I have to offer. I know that I want to be a mentor of some sorts and just share more of my story and the wisdom that I have with other people. And so again, that just goes back to me just wanting to create my own opportunities so people can know more about who I am and what it is I do and the ways in which I can help them.
Amazing. I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
So proud of you. Everybody, hand clap. Just because it is a journey taking on yourself as a, not just like a creative, but just as who you are.
Yeah.
Like, if we had to strip everything down from us, no accolades, no nothing,
yes,
with no praise from nobody, right? Just you,
yeah,
and God.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you should be who you want to be. And I think, you know, that is something very courageous, because a lot of times people can't face themselves.
Yeah.
And this journey,
it's
you
so
face
hard,
yourself. Y'all. You don't get to,
yeah,
you don't get to set back.
I do it daily. I do it daily.
And you should cry.
Yeah.
It's good for you. And I think, you know, when you are challenging yourself on a constant, you only get better at having these deeper, you know, intentional spaces of becoming. So you're not always lending into what the world can offer you, but what you know is offered for you at all costs. You always are very resourceful and very knowing, and you can always account for yourself. And I think that's what you're really gonna lean into on this next part of chapter. Yes. So what would you tell people who are wanting to transform themselves? What is, like, some words of encouragement you can leave them with?
Well, y'all know me. God is the center and the foundation of everything for me. So even when I'm giving other people advice or, you know, just wisdom, I'm like, do you really want the advice that I'm going to give you? Because I'm going to point you to a scripture. Like, just reading the word, like that's literally the most encouraging thing that I can give someone. Like, I know that we're all, you know, on different paths spiritually, but I know what works for me, and I know what I believe to be truth. And a lot of the advice that we hear out here in the world is really just reiterations of what's in Proverbs, you know. So I believe the Bible has something for everyone, you know, even if it might not be your thing, just give it a try, right? And so the Bible has definitely been encouraging for me, and that's the encouragement that I tend to give people. Literally, like, in real life, if I'm encouraging someone, hey, I wanted to share this scripture with you, because you can't sit here and tell me it didn't at least make you feel better, you know, like, oh, okay, cool. Like, so yeah.
You heard it here first. Try to take on the Bible.
Yes.
And then, you know, make sure you check out Kyndl.
And pray. Because talking to God, prayer is literally just a conversation with God.
Yes.
So I would also give that encouragement to talk to God and journal. That's something that I've been getting back into as well. It's something that I've always done, like, growing up, but I feel like I kind of lost touch with it as an adult. And I feel like that's why I kind of just been all over the place emotionally. It's like, girl, you need to journal.
Yes.
So yeah,
find an outlet. I think, releasing
yes,
and being able to talk, to get to, because it's a sanctuary, being able to have that conversation.
exactly.
And
because other people not gonna always be available.
yeah, that, and it's perspective. So what people honor in you, or what they see as to be of heightenedness, isn't always the same value.
Exactly.
And you shouldn't lean onto other people's understandings for constant
exactly.
Validation.
Exactly.
Because you will lose a lot of foresight on who you are. And the more that you can have these real deep live conversations with yourself and really understand the space with that, you can have better connection to spaces and people, and ultimately yourself, because a lot of times we tend to lose grace on our end for ourselves, and when ultimately we'll give it to anybody else in the world besides us. And you have to learn what that value means to you, because it only makes you a better whole, as a wholeness. Not like you're not ever lacking, it's just the understanding that displace is a real thing, and that you don't have to find that in everything, when it's always a home inside of you, who you are to God and who you see God as.
Yes,
it's always very valuable, and it also makes this journey more appreciative. It humbles you.
Exactly.
It constantly takes away from that pressure that always tends to never leave us. And that's what the journaling's for. That's what the prayers are for. That's what you read to find insurance inside of who you are. So I think these are really great values to have, and
for sure
will continue to evolve and spread. And this journey of being an entrepreneur, because that is what you are. Okay, don't take that away from you. I heard you said, I'm like, girl, this girl's crazy. She is, you are, you know what I mean? And I think
I just need the team of people around me instead of constantly being the one doing everything. That's the part of entrepreneurship that I don't like. It's like, nah, I'm cool. But yes, I am an entrepreneur.
You are. And we all learn. That's how we know we need help.
Exactly.
Right? Is because of what a team hones in and what it does to make us better people. As we're just one person, if we're trying to massively connect to more and to other in a new way, that's the new way, right? So you're going to be able to have plenty of opportunity for that, because people are going to go to the website, they're going to want to book the free constellation.
Yes. Consultation. Inside joke, y'all. We talk about space and constellations. Like, girl, relax,
get some sleep.
Yes,
what that
but
means. As an entrepreneur, get rest.
Please, see, look at me pronounce the stuff wrong. Please book a free consultation on my website. Our first time working, you will receive a free service. I literally just want to build the relationships, the connections, build my portfolio. Like, I want to meet y'all. I want to work with y'all. Like, how can I help y'all? How can, you know what I mean? Like, it's not just y'all helping me, paying me. Like, even with me wearing this sweatshirt with the logo, someone asked me if they could buy one. I'm like, I really was not trying to push nothing in y'all face on some, pay me some money. Like, the newsletter is literally just for you guys to keep in the loop with what it is that I have going on, because again, these social media apps, they're fleeting. You never really know who's really locked in with you. So yeah, please sign up for the newsletter. Please reach out, book a service. It's not about the money, it's about the relationships, and from there we gonna get the money together. So if you're trying to make some money, book a free consultation.
Yes, big facts. Well, I'm so thankful, really, to be able to have this conversation with you. We did this off the whim.
Yes, I did not know what she was going to ask me, y'all. There was no questions, y'all.
This is literally
relationship in real life.
Relationship, real love. So thank you for just having me a part, and I'm again really honored.
Saying yes.
Absolutely.
Well, this is episode 30, you guys. Again, keysxseeds.com. I love y'all. I will see y'all in the next episode.
Yes.